来今天大世界话题，我们要带您来看的是美国前联准会主席叶伦4年任期的表现，交出了漂亮的成绩单。这4年来，美国的失业率从本来6.7%降到了4.1%，创下了17年来的低点。通膨率维持低档，但是更接近2%的目标。而美国的经济逐渐的往上走，逐渐复苏，联准会就缓步升息，再加上缩减资产负债表，让 QE 慢慢退场。美国股市在叶伦任期内持续的创高。而对于叶伦这4年来的表现，《华尔街日报》邀请了经济学家来打分数，60%专家给了他 A。对他的表现竖起了大拇指，而身为史上第1位的女性联准会主席，也是第1位没有获得连任的联准会主席。叶伦自己怎么看他的历史定位，以及在他之后美国乃至于全世界经济的走向？我们来看看叶伦的专访。
Let's see.
Oh my God.
I've got quite a few going away gifts.
When we caught up with Janet Yellen on Friday, the boxes were packed and she was almost out the door.
I'm ready to go.
It must be a bittersweet moment.
It is a bittersweet moment because I really love this job and it is the central focus of my life. I enjoy time with my family outside of work, but the work I do here is the core of my existence and it's been my identity. It will be a big change.
Yellen was born in Brooklyn, valedictorian of her high school class, the only woman to get a PhD in economics from Yale in 1971. She worked in government and as a university professor. She also made history.
This is the portrait room, and what you see are portraits of all of the former Fed chairs.
Who all just happen to be men?
Well, they do happen to be men, but I'm hoping to find a place for myself eventually on that wall.
Knowing that you were the first woman to have this job, did you put extra pressure on yourself, do you think?
Well, I've tried to do a good job, and I suppose a theme of my life is that I try to be prepared and to get good grades. And I do want to show that women can perform well in these positions.
Good afternoon. And by most accounts, she has. Numerous Republican senators voted against her confirmation, and it was an open secret that she was not the leading candidate for the job.
Lawrence Summers was widely believed to be Mr. Obama's first choice for the Federal Reserve job.
But since Yellen took the helm in 2014, in the midst of the recovery from the Great Recession, the economy has steadily strengthened.
This is my chair right here in the center.
In large part through decisions reached here in the Federal Reserve boardroom in Washington. This is arguably the most important economic conference room in the entire world.
I think that's actually a fair assessment. The policymakers and senior staff sit around this table, and we sometimes disagree, but we're not disagreeable.
Under Yellen's leadership, the board slowly raised interest rates and also slowly started cutting back on bonds and other assets the Fed bought up to ease the recession. It worked. Inflation is now less than 2%, and unemployment at 6.7% when she took office has dropped significantly to 4.1%.
The labor market has become stronger. I believe that since I've become chair, several million jobs have been created, on the order of 10 million. I think the peppers look beautiful, don't they?
Yellen is used to debating economic policy, even at home.
And would you like a few tomatoes?
Yeah. Her husband and grocery shopping partner, George Akerlof, happens to be a Nobel Prize-winning economist. And believe it or not, they met at the Fed, where they both did a brief stint in the 1970s.
Really? Like this is a Fed love story?
It is a Fed romance.
Your husband said of you, not only did our personalities mesh perfectly, but we have always been in all but perfect agreement on macroeconomics. Now, that just sounds so romantic. He could have just said, "Zing went the strings of my heart," or something like that, right?
Well, we decided to get married very quickly, and I think we were quite sure that we were right for one another.
And there is no question he loves what she did as Fed chair.
Did you ever think, wait a minute, why is she, puzzled about something she was doing, or did it always make sense to you as an economist?
Janet, does always make sense.
Additional gradual rate hikes are likely to be appropriate over the next few years.
Which raises the question of what will happen when Yellen leaves. It's not a voluntary departure. She was a frequent target of Donald Trump during the 2016 campaign.
Janet Yellen of the Fed. The Fed is doing political by keeping the interest rates at this level.
Later, he praised her.
Janet Yellen, a wonderful woman who's done a terrific job.
But he didn't reappoint you. Were you disappointed when you learned that you were not going to get a second term, as almost everybody else has?
Right. So it is common for people to be reappointed by presidents of the opposite party. I made clear that I would be willing to serve another term. And so, yes, I do feel a sense of disappointment. But look, I've been in high-level positions in the Federal Reserve for many years, where I think I've had a seat at the table to make the arguments that I thought needed to be made and to advocate for good policy.
Yellen, a Democrat, will be succeeded by Jerome Powell, a Republican, but someone who has been described as her protege.
People say that you're supportive of him. Is that correct?
I am supportive of him. I've worked with Governor Powell for 5 years, very constructively. He is thoughtful, balanced, dedicated to public service. I've found him to be a very thoughtful policymaker.
Still, Yellen fears that some of the policies she championed are in peril. The House has passed a bill that would curtail the Fed's independence when it comes to setting interest rates. And there is also talk of rolling back regulations the Fed imposed on banks after the economic collapse.
They are now much safer, much sounder, and much better at managing their risks. And it would be a grave mistake to roll that back.
And on Yellen's last day in office, the Fed flexed its muscles, slapping Wells Fargo with unusually harsh penalties for widespread consumer abuses. As for Yellen's view of whether the stock market, which plummeted on Friday, has been too high in recent months.
Well, I don't want to say too high, but I do want to say high. Price-earnings ratios are near the high end of their historical ranges. If you look at commercial real estate, prices there are quite high relative to rents. Now, is that a bubble or is it too high? And there it's very hard to tell, but it is a source of some concern that asset valuations are so high. What we look at is if stock prices or asset prices more generally were to fall, what would that mean for the economy as a whole? And the financial system is much better capitalized. The banking system is more resilient. And I think our overall judgment is that if there were to be a decline in asset valuations, it would not damage unduly the core of our financial system.
We're in the 9th year of a recovery. Can it really keep going like this?
Yes, it can keep going. Recoveries don't die of old age.
But for now, Janet Yellen departs, feeling that she's leaving the economy stronger than she found it, and exiting a job she dearly loved, among people who seem to love her.
Last opportunity for lunch in the Westport Cafe. Thank you.